we go. Well, here we are. And let's see. Okay. How is everyone doing? It's really bright out right now. I guess the blizzard from yesterday is over. But now I've got some glare on my screen. There we go. That's a little better. Okay. Happy Saturday. Happy, beautiful Saturday to everybody. It's about as, well, at least here in Fairbanks in North Pole area, it's really turning into a nice day, especially after a day and a half of blizzard that we've had. Certainly a lot nicer right now than it has been. I wanted to make this video, this live, however you want to put it, about the mess that the Miami Dolphins are in, and we're it seems like every day we go farther and farther into this mess, and it's just, if something isn't done, it's gonna get out of hand. So I've been writing down this list that I have of everything I would do to fix the problems with the Miami Dolphins right now. I know it seems like this is just, there's no way you can do that. You can't fix all these problems. We're screwed. We're gonna be 3-14 for the season, and that's that. Give up now. Quit. Just don't even bother with the Dolphins this year. And those same people are gonna watch every single game. But I digress. I'm of the opinion and the mindset that it's fixable, and it's not as bleak as everybody wants it to be. I do mention it in a lot of my videos that it isn't the end of the world. We're not looking at the worst team in the NFL realistically. If nothing else gets fixed, I would say probably maybe 8-9 or 9-8 next year. But make a few moves, fix a couple things, and it's looking entirely different. So it's one of those things that's kind of, it's not as simple. It's not simple, but it's not the end of the world either. It's not impossible to fix. We have something at almost every position that we can do to make things better and go from 8-9 to an 11 or 12 win team, and possibly even competing for the division. But you have, the Buffalo Bills to get through. You got the Patriots looking stronger this year. You got the Jets who, well, I don't know what the Jets are going to do. I can't even pretend to have a clue. I don't know how that's even a thing. The Jets are the Jets, so I'm not really concerned about other teams too much. What I am concerned about is the team that always seems to win the division, and that's the Bills. So with that, I want to beat the Bills for sure, but I don't see anything else causing us more problems than any other year. The main thing that gets us is ourselves, is the Dolphins. The Dolphins get the Dolphins. That's the problem. So there are ways to fix it. We can fix it. It's just a matter of, are they willing to? I don't know if they're going to do everything on this list that I have here, but I mean, if they did, I guarantee you we would be looking a million times better. A million times better. It wouldn't even be close to the same team. I mean, it would be roughly the same players we have now, just a few additions. But nothing really would change except for some attitude things, some mindset things, a coaching thing, and some addition of players, a position change for a couple players. So let me see if I can pull this up real quick on my notepad here, and I can start going through it. All right. So let's start with. I'm just going to go through this from positions. As far as the coaching staff goes, there's a couple things I would do differently. And Mike McDaniel actually hinted at a couple of these things. And if he goes through with it, I think it could be good. I think it could be helpful to the Dolphins. So the first thing I would do is I would make a notice to the players instead of just fines for missing meetings and things like that. If a player shows up late to a meeting, I don't care who it is. If they show up late to a meeting, bench them for a quarter of the game. For first quarter, bench them. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Patrick Paul. I don't care if it's Tua Tagovailoa. I don't care if it's Tyreek Hill. If you show up late to a meeting, you're missing a quarter of the game. I realize that some of these things are kind of college oriented or even high school oriented with the punishments, but at this point there needs to be an attitude change, and the best way to bring that about is different kinds of repercussions for your stupid actions. So if you're dumb enough to be getting paid millions of dollars to play a professional sport and you don't deem it necessary to show up on time to a meeting, I'm sorry. If that's the case, then you deserve to sit a quarter. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it means we lose a game. Sometimes when you change the attitude and mentality of a team, you're going to have a few losses. Okay? But Mike McDaniel needs to do this, and he needs to institute something along these lines where you're going to miss a quarter if you miss a meeting, period. It would help. Guaranteed. You might have a couple players, do something to warrant missing a quarter. And if that's the case, then we need to hold ourselves accountable, and the coach needs to actually go through with it. Oh, I told you would miss a quarter, so you're going to sit the first quarter, the first game of the year. If they miss one meeting without it being excused, definitely needs to happen. There needs to be some repercussions. Mike McDaniel himself said that the just having a fine isn't enough. He said the fine thing wasn't working. Cool. Keep the fines, maybe even increase it a little bit, and add missing playtime. Add that and see what happens. See if they still have a problem. I guarantee you they're all going to straighten up pretty quick. First time somebody misses a quarter because they were late to a team meeting, I guarantee you that crap stops almost immediately. There's just no way around it. It's a matter of Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff holding the players accountable for it. It needs to happen. Has to happen. So that's the first thing I would do. Make sure the fine is on top of that. It needs to stay. Next, Mike McDaniel also hinted at this. He said that this year he was going to be counting on his offensive coordinator and his quarterbacks coach to have packages and personnel packages and play packages ready to go before Mike McDaniel calls a play. So basically what's going to happen is he's expecting a group of plays and a group of personnel to be given to him before the play is to be called. That'll eliminate a lot of his job picking all that out. So basically it's going to streamline it a little bit. This will also mean that the coordinator, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback's coach are going to need to be very close to Mike McDaniel on the sidelines. But this is something that could be interesting, and it could work. Have those play packages and those personnel packages ready for the head coach. That way it assists with getting plays in on time. And the other thing that I really, really think would be important is to minimize the pre-snap motions. I mean, you have to do it sometimes, and that's unavoidable, and I'm okay with that. But it shouldn't be every single play. Instead of pre-snap motions and the options that Tua has there to do that, since it takes so long, calling an audible would be so much quicker. So instead of all the pre-snap motion, institute a little more elaborate of an audible system for Tua. Tua has the ability to read defense. I'm sorry. He has the ability to read the defense and make decisions at the line of scrimmage. Unfortunately, he doesn't have time to do audibles because he's trying to orchestrate all the pre-snap motion. It's too much. So what we need to do is we need to minimize pre-snap motion and maximize our audible system. Enhance that and give Tua the keys to it and let him run it. I guarantee you this would result in a lot less clock violations and a lot more plays for positive yardage. It would eliminate all these negative yardage plays. Tua has the ability to read these defenses. And when he sees something, he's even said it in interviews, he's seen something with the defense and he hasn't been able to do anything but call the play that was called and run it because he hasn't had time to change anything. And you can't just call timeout after timeout after timeout. We all know that. You have a certain amount of timeouts, and using them in the beginning of the quarters or anything like that, that doesn't work that way. It causes problems later on in the game. So that's what needs to happen. We need to have a little bit more of a repercussion system for players that miss team meetings. Encourage them to be on time to meetings and events and practices. If they don't, we need to hold them accountable, and there needs to be more than just a fine. There needs to be some lost time, some benchings. Not for a whole game at first, but there definitely needs to be some time missed for their attitude and their lack of timeliness. It has to happen. If the coaching staff can hold players responsible for that and do that, that would be huge. Also, the coordinator and the QB coach need to help Mike McDaniel with the play calling and be involved in it as much as possible. The more they're involved, the more McDaniel will trust them to do these things, and it'll help get plays in on time to our quarterback to make the appropriate adjustments. Adjustments for the quarterback. The audible system has to be put in play. We have to give him proper audible system, and we need to minimize the pre-snap motions. Doing those things from the coaching staff, if the coaching staff does those few things, that'll help us out immensely next season. So that's what I have for the coaching staff. Not a lot, just a few things. And if you'll notice, most of those things are offense related. I'm very happy with Anthony Weaver and what he's done, and I want to see him continue to grow. I'm not going to say a thing about Anthony Weaver. Nothing. I'm going to let him continue to do exactly what he's been doing. I'm happy with it. Quarterback, this is super simple. I only have two things here. We all know that Tua takes a lot of the snaps in practice and has to, I know Tua does that, and he's a starter. He deserves the majority of the snaps. However, this year, I think that it would be beneficial for Zach Wilson, our second-string quarterback, to be allowed to have a little more snaps than we would normally allow for our second-string quarterback. I'm not talking about a majority. I'm not saying that. But he should be allowed to have a few more snaps. I think, maybe closer to half and half. But I think Zach Wilson needs those extra snaps and the work with Mike McDaniel and Robert Prince and our QB coach and our offensive coordinator. Let them develop him truly. We have him in a situation where he might have the chance to grow properly after his year in Denver where he did pretty well. This could be a good thing for Zach Wilson, and I want to see him continue to grow. So that's what needs to happen there. The only other thing I have for the quarterback room is we need to draft a quarterback in the 5th round or later. Draft one quarterback in the 5th round or later. He'll be our quarterback 3, our developmental piece. SEAL team offense, right there. Hit or miss, doesn't matter. You always take a stab at a quarterback every year. You should in the later rounds. You never know. You might get the next Tom Brady. So definitely draft a quarterback in the 5th round or later. So for QB, the QB room, develop Zach Wilson more. Give him more time in practice to run the offense and draft a quarterback in the 5th round or later in the draft to be our QB3. What's up, Cap? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I had some thoughts, so I figured I had to get in here and spew this. I've been going through this list of things that just needs to happen to make this team better, and to fix most of our problems. But that's all I have for the QB room. That's it. It's simple. develop Zach Wilson properly by giving him a little bit more time than we normally would give our quarterback to, and let him run with the number one offense, with our one offense. Then draft a QB in the 5th round or later. Take a stab at a quarterback. Doesn't matter. Just take a stab. Put him at QB3 for the season. And we'll know by the end of the year or next year if he's going to be worth keeping or not. Pretty simple, right? Not bad. These are things that haven't changed anything really. One has addressed with the coaches, the coaching stuff that addressed our need for a little bit of an attitude change and identity change. So the fines need to continue for the late players from the coaching staff. We need to institute sit time for players that miss team meetings. You miss a team meeting, you sit for a quarter, you sit for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, in a game. I don't care if it results in a loss or not. They need to realize that they can't continue to miss meetings. They can't continue to be late. They need to show up on time. Making millions of dollars to play a game. Show up on time. And the last thing was offensive coordinator and the QB coach need to actually do the package selection and the player selection for the head coach before he calls a play. Yeah, there's a lot. That's true. Yeah. I think Bevel on that list, Slowick and Bevel are the two that really stick out to me. I really hope that they can work with Zach Wilson and keep most of that going. As far as everybody else goes, they need to kind of keep their voices down. Yep. You're right. And people are kind of sleeping on the Patriots this year. I mean, I'm not thinking they're going to be super, super, super good, but they're definitely going to be improved. I mean, Vrabel pretty much just commands that as soon as he shows up in the door. So Vrabel is definitely a good coach, and I like him a lot. I would have liked to have him. Yeah, definitely. So I talked about quarterbacks. I mean, these are small things, but none of this is unachievable. This is all doable. Like pretty much, next few weeks, these can all be done, and that's the crazy part. There's not much here. Now, this is where I'm gonna start getting into something that some people might not have thought about, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot. The running back room. Sign Ashton. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. I didn't say that. Sign another depth piece, somebody who's not a starter maybe, just somebody to come and fill in, okay? We need to move Achane away from the running back position and make him mainly wide receiver 3. Slot position, wide receiver. I know, just hear me out. We'll get through this. If we do that, that'll put Wright as our running back 1, and I'm okay with that. We need to sign another running back to fill in the running back room, obviously. Probably 2 more. We'll see. We'll have room, if we follow my plan, in the draft to do a little bit of running back selecting. Sign a depth piece, and then move Achane to slot receiver position. That's not to say he'll never be in the backfield ever again, but if you look at the talent of Achane, the way he plays, how good he is in the receiver positions in the first place, his hands, his ability to go up and get the ball, his route running, everything. The guy is a slot receiver, and a great one. So, in this plan of mine, move Achane to slot receiver. Tight end, no change. Some people might not like that, but this is my plan. The tight ends we have on this team right now are more than sufficient to run this offense, and we have the things we need. A better set of tools this year than we have in the last few. Between Jonnu Smith and Pharaoh Brown and our other tight ends, we're going to be okay at tight end. So, leave tight end be. Wide receiver. I have Achane, like I said, added as a slot receiver. I say use Achane and Tyreek Hill as slot receivers, mainly making Waddle wide receiver 1 and Akine wide receiver 2. Yes, just like Darren Sproles. Exactly. So, in this plan of mine for wide receiver, we have added Achane. We use Achane and Tyreek Hill as slot receivers, mainly making Jalen Waddle wide receiver 1 and Akine wide receiver 2. Those two receivers, wide receiver 1 and 2, so making Waddle and Akine those receivers, that's going to work wonders. Waddle has the speed to be a wide receiver 1, and he hasn't been getting the ball. Obviously, we know why. I'm not complaining about it. But he's had limited opportunities because of the talent at that wide receiver room. Now, if we put Waddle there at 1 or 2 and Akine at 1 or 2, depending on how the defense wants to play them, it doesn't matter. 1 or 2. Have Tyreek and Achane in those slot receiver snaps. If we do that, Tyreek and Achane will make a flat out killing in the slot. No one will be able to guard them. No one. Guaranteed. If we put those two players in our slot receiver position, that pretty much eliminates our need to constantly have all of the pre-snap motion. Like I mentioned with the coaching changes and the things the coaches need to do to make things different. Get rid of the pre-snap motion and institute a better audible system for Tua to actually take advantage of what he sees in defenses before the play is snapped. That's what needs to happen. Putting Tyreek and Achane in the slot will give the opportunity for that to work. So that's the first part of the wide receiver deal. The second part I labeled strictly as Tyreek. As far as Tyreek goes, we need to keep him this year. I know a lot of people don't like that. But when you look at the reasoning and the money and everything else, it does not make sense, and it would absolutely hurt us immensely to get rid of him this year. No matter how you look at it, no matter when you want to do it this year, no matter if you want to trade him or cut him, post June 1st, pre-June 1st, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's going to kill us. So, if in my plan here, we keep Tyreek Hill and we cut him or trade him next year. We use him this year, let him have a good season, which he will have, especially with this plan that I'm having here. If he has a good season this year, we'll have better trade capital next year. We'll get more things for him, and it'll be a better situation for all players around. Now, in order for that to happen, he has to stay clean this year. No more BS off the field. So, my plan for Tyreek, trade or cut next year, keep him this year, bench him for the first 2 quarters of the season this year. The first game, bench him for the first half. Tell him that the reason we're doing that is because it is a conduct detrimental to team attitude and identity. And tell him because the constant issues off the field over the last 3 years with the team and during a game last year, because of all that, we're going to bench him for the first half of the first game. Then he can continue to play. Explain that any off-field issues will result in more suspensions and fines for conduct detrimental to team attitude and identity. These suspensions and these fines need to be issued directly from the head coach. This is part of the head coach taking responsibility for his job on this team to drive nails. And sometimes the nail you have to drive is crooked. You got to straighten them out before you can pound them in. This is what Tyreek Hill is doing right now. Mike McDaniel needs to take responsibility for what his job is, and this is his job. To straighten the bent nails. That's what Tyreek Hill is right now. He's causing problems. He's a bent nail. McDaniel needs to actually straighten him out. Nobody else. The head coach. And everybody on the team needs to know that this punishment and these repercussions have come from McDaniel. So, keep Tyreek Hill. Suspend him for the first 2 quarters of the half a game. Just 2 quarters. He's sitting on the bench. You don't have to make it an actual suspension, but sit his butt down and tell him you're watching the first half. Then put him back in the game and tell him to keep his butt clean and his nose clean. He does that, everything will be fine. Okay? That's the wide receiver room. That's it. That's it. We don't have to add a bunch of receivers. We don't have to add anything. In fact, all we're doing is we're putting a running back in the wide receiver room. That's it. And adding a running back in the draft. Later rounds. So, after the wide receivers and the running backs, we get to the O-line. This is simple. All right? It's simple. The first thing we do is we put Eichenberg at the 7th or 8th swing lineman position. Tell him he's not going to start. He's not capable of being a starter. He's going to be a backup. Move him back. Because right now they got him listed as our starting guard. Nope. Move him down. Move him back. There's rumors. Finally, I guess the Dolphins are talking to Dalton Risner and his agent Drew Rosenhaus. Thank you. Finally. We need to sign him. I've been screaming for Dalton Risner to be signed from the Vikings for years. Well, for 2 years. I've been wanting him for a long time. So sign Dalton Risner. He's relatively inexpensive. He wants to come to Miami. Need to sign him. Next, sign Will Hernandez. Give him the chance that he deserves. He's been with the Cardinals. The only injury he's had before is COVID, up to this knee injury that he had last year. There's no reason to expect him not to be able to recover from that. He is a beast. He has got power. He can control people in front of him. And in our zone offense, I would love to see him. So sign Will Hernandez, sign Dalton Risner, bench Liam Eichenberg, put him on the back burner, and then draft 2 offensive linemen within the first 5 rounds of the draft. That's 7 picks. In those first 7 picks, make 2 of them interior offensive linemen. That's it. That's it. 2 interior offensive linemen in the first 7 picks of the draft. Sign Will Hernandez. Sign Dalton Risner. By the way, Dalton Risner and Will Hernandez, you can sign them both for about $9 million. Not a lot of money. Get them on the team. That would directly improve our O-line immensely. That would make our offensive line twice as good. I'm not even exaggerating. Our offensive line would be great. I would be so happy. I would be confident going into the season with that as our offensive line. And the players we already have. I'd be happy with that. Moving over to defense. We do have some holes at defense, but this is pretty simple. Like I said, for the coaching on the defensive side, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm very pleased with our defense. Very, very, very pleased. I love Anthony Weaver. I like the way he coaches. I like the fact that he sits down on the sidelines. He's not up in the skybox. I like that he's intense. He levels with the players. They like to play for him. They want to do well for him. I like that. I'm happy. Nothing to change for our coaching staff on defense. As far as defensive line goes, we need to draft 2 defensive linemen in the draft. And it needs to happen in the first 4 rounds. So the first 5 picks, 2 of them need to be defensive linemen. And that mainly has to happen is because they need to be contributors immediately. They both don't have to be starters. One of them does. So both of the linemen that we draft need to be able to contribute. One of them needs to be a starting caliber defensive lineman. That's it. That's all I would do for defensive line. We would have a slightly smaller defensive line room, but I would wait until something pops up in free agency to make any more changes with that defensive lineman set. Definitely get 2 contributors out of the draft for defensive line within the first 4 rounds. That's 5 picks. You can spend 2 of them on defensive line. Edge rushing, no changes. Nothing to change for the edge room. Leave the edge room alone. All we got to focus on with the edge room is keeping them healthy. Get them recovered all the way. Get them healthy, and let's play them as they are. I like our edge rushing room. Even the players that are contributors and depth pieces, I like our edge rushing room. And you should too. Linebackers, no changes. I want to see what our linebacking room can do as it is right now. That's me, a personal opinion. We could, pick up a linebacker in the draft, but I wouldn't expect the linebacker that we pick up in the draft to be an immediate contributor beyond a few plays a game, maybe. Cornerback. As far as our DBs go, we need to draft 1 cornerback in the first 2 rounds of the draft. 1. And he has to be an immediate starter or contributor, a heavy contributor. He's got to be up there. So the first 2 rounds, I think we have to draft a cornerback. Have to. We need it. But other than that, I do like our cornerback room. Aside from Cam Smith, who I am about to give up on, this is the last year that I'm going to hope for something from Cam Smith. Some development. Some intensity. I want to see something from him. If I don't see anything from him this year, I'm giving up on him. Storm Duck, I'm encouraged by. The dude grows and gets better every single week. He came in and filled in for us admirably. Didn't do great beyond all doubt. Made some mistakes, but he was out there playing, and it was an undrafted free agent. Kader Kohu, same deal, was an undrafted free agent when he came into the league. And look, he's growing. He's getting better and better, was playing lights out at the end of that season last year. He was playing great. So seeing that we've hit on 2 undrafted free agents that have started to grow a lot. Kader Kohu is one of our starters, and Storm Duck is a definite contributor to this team. I don't say he's starting caliber yet, but he's getting better every week that he's with this team. And if you have that kind of improvement from a player, especially a cornerback, that's what you want. You should never get rid of a player that's growing like that. So Storm Duck, him, Kader Kohu rather, Ramsey. I mean, I'm okay with the cornerback room. We just need one more piece, and it needs to be a starting caliber player. So that needs to be the first 2 rounds, for sure. But we can do that. Ethan Bonner's tricky. Okay, so we all saw him play in the Kansas City playoff game when we played the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago. I thought that during that game, Ethan Bonner played great, especially considering what he was. I thought Ethan Bonner was playing better than anybody else at the cornerback position during that game, that's saying something, right? He played very well in that game, and I was like, man, this could be the beginning of his career, blossoming, and then last year, nothing. I wonder, you're right, it makes me wonder about Weaver. Maybe Weaver doesn't think he's as good of a fit for their system, but at that point, we still have him. And I think maybe the switch, maybe he has a hard time learning the defense because Bonner kind of seemed to regress this year and didn't get to play, and he was in a couple times and didn't really, stand out at all. What I'm gonna say about Ethan Bonner is I would like to see, because he's fast. He is fast, and he's definitely has talent. Like, the intangibles are there. So it tells me that it's got to be some comprehension of the defense issues. So what I'm hoping is that he has this entire offseason. And I've heard about a lot of the players that are in and out of the building all the time, working, learning, discussing things with each other. But I haven't heard much about Ethan Bonner, so I don't know either way if he's taking advantage of this offseason. Hopefully he is. I would love to see him step up. I'd love to see him blossom. And in fact, right now, if I had to rate, after our starters in the cornerback room, if I had to rate the rest of them, Ethan Bonner and Storm Duck, I would rate above Cam Smith. And that's saying something, because Cam Smith was a second-round draft pick, and the other guys were minimals. I don't know what's going on with Cam Smith, but like I said, I'm about to dump him. I would be so done with him if I was running that front office. The guy just cannot seem to get it together. All he can do is blame other people. I'm frustrated beyond everything with him. But Ethan Bonner, I'm not ready to give up on yet. I want to see him one more year. I want to see what happens after this off season, and then I'll be able to make a better presumption on, or I'll make a better idea of what his problem is, or if he has a problem even after this off season. But like I said, aside from the one cornerback that we need to draft in the first 2 rounds of the draft, beyond that, I think we're okay at cornerback. And I'm very encouraged with some of the guys that we have. Now, safety. Safety is the one where I'm encouraged with the players that we've added. They have they have something to prove. So the players that we've added are going to be playing very hard this year, and that excites me. After we've had a couple years of subpar safety play, really, and people can say what they want about Snowman, but Javon Holland was not playing like himself the last couple years. He's been getting worse every year. Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah. The undrafted guys are the guys that are doing better. I don't know. That's what I just mentioned it a little bit ago. I'm blown away that we seem to hit on these undrafted free agents as cornerbacks. That tells me that our cornerback coaches do a good job because they develop them well. Um, Definitely. So, but Javon Holland wasn't very good the last couple of years. So we've seen some pretty uninspired play from our safety room the last couple of years, and it got worse this year. So knowing that, I'm excited for this year with the players that we've added because they have something to prove. Ashton Davis wants to be a starter. He thinks he should be. He's going to be playing lights out to try to make himself a starter. If he worked his butt off to grow and get better and then became the starter and got hurt, then came back and played in that last playoff game for the Lions as a starter again. He wants to prove that he can do that and stay healthy. They both have something to prove, so I'm very encouraged having both of them on this team this year. But we do need one more safety, and I think that needs to happen in the first 4 rounds of the draft. Has to. We draft a safety in the first 4 rounds. Maybe he's not a starter, but he'd be a contributor. And we need to go into free agency for the last time. Well, not the last time. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face, because I truly think that the best scheme fit we have sitting around in free agency right now is Julian Blackmon from the Indianapolis Colts. He's inexpensive, he's young, and he is a perfect scheme fit for what we need. We need to get Julian Blackmon on this team. Julian Blackmon and the 2 offensive linemen that I suggested earlier in this video, you sign those 3 people, it's only going to cost you about $13 or $14 million max. Max. That'll leave us the money we need to sign our draft class, assuming we signed every single draft pick, which we won't. But assuming we did, we would have more than enough to do that, and it would leave a few million after. We need to get those 3 players. That's Will Hernandez, that's Dalton Risner, and that's Julian Blackmon. We get those 3 players, do those couple things in the draft. Now this is the kicker. This is the part that excites me so much. We do have draft needs this year that we have to get. But by the time we hit the end of the 4th or the 5th round, guess what we can start doing? We can go BPA. If we follow that plan that I just put out, I have addressed every single issue with this team. And maybe not solved everything, but put us in a position to be competitive. Gave us a position to field this team and have these guys actually go out there and punch somebody in the mouth. Get some attitude on the field. For the last couple of years, we've allowed ourselves to become the nail. At the end of the season especially, we've allowed our team to become the nail. This season, we don't have to add the best players, and we don't have to have everything go right for us to become the hammer. It just doesn't work that way in the NFL. Sometimes players that can play well together do better than 2 all-stars playing together. Sometimes the young guys can come out and stomp on the experienced veteran. That's what I want this year. I want the young team. I want a bunch of guys that are going to come out and say, I'm not the nail, I'm the hammer. I watched that movie, The Longest Yard, the other day, and I'm just sitting there thinking, like, man, that scene where they come out in the game and they just all of them just they snap the ball and everybody just starts punching and kicking the player across from them instead of playing the game. That's what I want to see. I want the Dolphins to do that. Just as soon as that first kickoff goes, just run down the field and just maul somebody. I don't care. 6, 7, 8, 9 penalties, do it. I don't care. I just want to see. I want to see a team of fighters. I want to see a team with something to prove, and maybe the way you get that is by doing what I suggested there. Maybe the Dolphins don't do everything that I suggested, but man, if they did a few of them, I'd sure feel a lot better about this situation. If they signed Dalton Risner and Will Hernandez, I would feel so much better about our offensive line. I would be confident. I'd be encouraged. If they signed Julian Blackmon from Indy, if they signed him, I would be confident in our safety room. If they drafted a couple defensive linemen in the first 4 rounds of the draft, I would be happy with our defensive lineman room. Obviously, there's some room for improvement there, but they could even, if BPA lined up, they could even draft another defensive lineman if they wanted. You can get a solid contributor, not a starter maybe, not a dominant player, but you could get a defensive line contributor in the 4th, 5th round. Sure. Crazier things have happened. There's ways to fix these issues. It's not the end of the world. It's not time to give up on the Dolphins. It's not time for any of that. It's time for us as fans to try to be supportive. I mean, we all have our opinions about how to fix things, for sure. Well, the main thing I heard about Dalton Risner is there's 2 things about Dalton Risner we need to think about. Number 1, he had a back issue last year. That was the reason that he didn't hit it off too well. And here's the other thing about Dalton Risner. Okay, so try to follow me on this, and I'm going to use the stats, the rankings from PFF. So just take those with a grain of salt. I'm just using those for illustrative purposes, not really talking about it like it's fact. But it is a good way to generalize what he's good at. He's got an 85 ranking, or 85 rating at pass block. Dalton Risner is an extremely good pass blocker, okay? The issues come in the run game. Now, the teams that he's been playing for, they are gap running teams, okay? So there's a hole, you hit that hole, that's where you go. That's a gap run. That's how a lot of teams run the ball. There are some teams like the Miami Dolphins that have zone read. So the zone read run teams, those are the teams that they call a run play, but it's not to a specific hole. It's an area. It's a slide. It's a stretch type play. That's what they run. They allow the running back to make those calls. So having Dalton Risner, he carries a 65 or 66 rating out of 100 for run blocking. And I think part of that is because he hasn't had a chance to play in a zone run scheme. Now that if he ends up in Miami, which is like what his agent is saying, if there's his interest like we're hearing, and he ends up signing with Miami, he'll be playing his zone read or zone run scheme, and I think that'll greatly help his ability to play that position in the run game. Like I said, he hasn't really had that opportunity, and a lot of teams think that they want to pass because he doesn't really fit their scheme, or they're worried about the back pain. Like I said, if we signed Will Hernandez and Dalton Risner doesn't have to be a starter. He would be an extremely high-quality backup. And if he's not playing every snap, the back issue probably wouldn't be as big of a problem. I do think that we really need to sign Will Hernandez and Dalton Risner. But if we did, Risner wouldn't have to be a starter. And I think between the two, I think Will Hernandez would get the starting job for sure. Actually, I'll guarantee it, yeah. Will Hernandez would be the starter over Dalton Risner. But Dalton Risner would be one incredible, incredible backup. I think he'd have to be your 6th lineman. So that's the deal with Dalton Risner. It's not, he's not as bad as some people think he is. And as far as I know, that's the only real issues with him. The back issue, and a lot of teams don't look at him as a scheme fit for what they want to do. I don't know. What do you guys think about Dalton Risner? Has anybody heard anything else about him? And keep in mind, Phil, we don't have to. We don't. By the way, I appreciate you commenting, Phil. Um, we don't have to. We don't have to have Dalton Risner for a long term. We could pop him on a 1 year contract. In fact, I think that would be more advisable to see how he works out. Steve, you're right. I don't know if I wouldn't say it was a mistake letting Vic leave. Let's be real. First of all, Vic Fangio was going to leave the moment he signed with Miami, because as soon as he signed with Miami, he found out about the Philly thing. So he was literally just waiting. He committed to a year with the Dolphins, and he honored his deal. But the whole time, he wanted to be in Philly. That's where his family is. That's where his life is. That's home. He was going to go to Philly no matter what. No matter what. There wasn't enough money that we could have offered him to make him stay here. So it's not it's not a matter of us letting Vic leave. We didn't let him leave. Vic was leaving no matter what. However, the second part of your comment, soft players, you're right. Nobody can deny that. And that's why Steve, I don't know if you've been here from the beginning or not, but I think I would really like it if you get some time to go back and watch the rest of this video, because I addressed the soft player part in the very beginning. But I'll kind of shorten it right now. The players that we've signed this year from free agency, they are not soft. Those guys have something to prove. Those guys are fighters. So I feel like adding those players that we've added has been a benefit. They might not all be starters, but if you fill a team with more and more people with something to prove and with a fighter mentality, with a I'm the hammer and not the nail type of mentality, like Kenny Britt, not going to be a starter for us. No way, no how. But he is a hammer. We fill the team with those kind of players, and I tell you what, those are the kind of guys that bleed attitude into other players. That's the kind of stuff that rubs off. It's like in the original Star Trek series when Spock says a certain amount of exposure always results in contamination. Repeated exposure results in contamination. If we have enough players with a fighter mentality, with a I have something to prove mentality, that's going to rub off on the others. We just need to add more. There needs to be more hammers than there are nails. And we can turn some of those nails into hammers. Some of those other guys that don't necessarily have that killer mentality, they'll start figuring out how to acquire that. It's one of those things. It can be bad because like it's just the opposite too. If we have a bunch of guys that turn into soft players, it's going to rub off on everybody else. We can't allow that. So that falls on the coaching staff to not encourage that kind of behavior and that kind of mentality. If the coaching staff does some of the things that I suggested in the beginning of this video, then that'll kind of stop. Just needs to be some structure. That's all. Some structure. Set some rules forth and some structure and hold people accountable to it. You do that after a couple mess ups from some players. The first time we go into a game and it starts and they say, and the announcers are like on TV, and somebody says, I haven't seen Tyreek Hill. Oh, he's sitting down there on the bench right now. He won't be in until the second half. He showed up late to a players' meeting. He won't be in until the second half. The first time something like that happens, it ain't going to happen much more. Especially in a year like this for Tyreek Hill, if we end up keeping him, he's going to want to do as well as he can because he's got to know he is fried here in Miami. And as soon as this season's over, we're going to get rid of him. It doesn't make sense to do anything else. So if he knows he's going to be gotten rid of next year, he's going to want to do as well as he can to put himself in position to be signed by somebody else. Or he can retire, I guess, but I don't think he wants to retire. I think he wants to keep playing. So things can change. A soft team can become a tough team. And that's kind of what this video was. It was kind of showing how we can do that. The players that I'm suggesting adding that I've suggested are fighters. Those 3 players. And I didn't say who to draft in those when I explained that we needed a player here or there in the draft and where we should be looking. I didn't name any players specifically because the draft is so fluid. There's no way to tell what we're going to be able to do. And that's partially why I'm going to be going live during the first round of the draft, and the second round is because I want to see how it spills out, and I want to talk about what I would do as it goes, as we actually know what's available at our draft picks. But there are some soft players in the draft, some soft mentality players, and we don't want those. So when these players pop up and show up and we find out what's available during our draft picks, man, that's going to be exciting to see what's going to happen. I have no idea, though. But I do know that if we follow my plan, by the end of round 4, possibly the first pick of round 5, we will be able to start going 100% best player available. And that would be great. We don't have to use our entire draft and go team need. We don't. Unfortunately, the first 4 rounds, we definitely need to look team need above BPA. But most of those picks in the first 4 rounds are going to kind of line up real close to BPA. So it's not like it's totally team need that we're drafting. It's going to kind of be close to BPA anyway. Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness that the needs we have are what we need this year, and the draft is stacking up the way it's looking, because it could be a lot worse. It seems like all the needs we have are readily available in this draft, and those positions are deep in this draft. We need to look at it that way and be encouraged by that, because usually that doesn't happen. Usually, just because it's stuff that we need doesn't mean that's available in the draft. This year, it seems like it's going to be, so that's a good thing. But the whole thing does revolve around a player attitude. And like Steve Gold said, soft players. Yeah, it sucks. We don't want soft players. So we need to phase those out. And that's kind of why I think phasing out Cam Smith would probably be a good thing. I think Cam Smith is a soft player. I do not think Ethan Bonner is a soft player. I know Storm Duck isn't a soft player. Kader Kohu, not soft. Kader Kohu is one of the best tacklers on our team. That's just an example. We do have players that are soft on this team, and they need to go. We've done a good job letting some of those soft players go this year so far, and signing some fighters. I do think that's true. But we need that to continue. It's got to continue. We need to continue working on team attitude, team identity. That needs to be a priority. And that's not just players, that's coaches too. So, in these here comments, make sure you guys throw a like down if you guys haven't already. And if you're just in here and you haven't subscribed, please do that. I guarantee you that every time you subscribe or like a post or like a video, it saves a puppy. And we all like puppies. So save a puppy, throw a like down, throw a comment, tell me you saved a puppy. But I think that's pretty much all I have. Unless anybody has any questions or anything they want to talk about, we can discuss. But I did my goal of covering, what I would do with this team. It's definitely workable. It's workable. We can do this. I think that it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is. It's not as doom and gloom. Let's see. Plans. I've got first and second round of the draft coming up that I'm going to be live streaming. Thanks, dude. Appreciate that. It's good to have you in here, Phil. I've got the first and second round draft coverage coming up that I'm going to do. I've got a video on next Wednesday coming up. That's the 16th. I've got a video Wednesday at Wednesday night with Curtis with Ace Per Head. He's going to come onto my channel for the first time. That'll be my very first guest on my channel, which is fitting because he's one of my favorite people on YouTube. I love him to death. Gonna have him on for a chat. Then the week after the draft is over, I have a video coming out definitely for the schedule reveal. When they reveal the schedule, I'm gonna do a live stream and I'm gonna cover that and go in depth every game. Also, that week after the draft, I've got absolutely he is. Look forward to having you there, dude. Also, after the draft that week, I'm going to be going on with the guys at Finn's Forecast. And if you haven't checked out Finn's Forecast, go check those guys out too. They're a newer YouTube channel, but they do a fantastic job. It's a group of 4 Finns fans. They get together and they pick the game apart. They do a great job, very in depth, good personalities, easy to watch. But they are a brand new channel. So if you have a chance, shoot over there, give them a subscription, tell them I sent you. Help those guys get a bit bigger because they put out a really good product. I like their stuff. I'm going to go on with them and chat with them and hopefully have a couple of them come onto my channel too as well. So things are starting to pick up for me a little bit here with all of this going on. And hopefully it just continues. So if you know anybody who's a Dolphin fan, tell them to come check out my channel and give a watch and see what they think. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for coming out. Cap, Phil, Steve Gold, appreciate all you guys. Thanks for commenting. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Fins up. Stay hopeful if you can.